No, it was on me. I just randomly lost internet for some reason. I don't know if one of my roommates restarted the router or something like that. You know, it happens. I'm glad it wasn't a match where the clock particularly matters. Alright, my opponent has yet another Leovold. And then a Baleful Strix. Again, I'm gonna just go ahead and permanently answer these things. These Swords to Plowshares aren't doing a lot in my hand anyway. I'm fine with my opponent casting him to Turok. I don't actually care about either one of those cards right now. The Caracas was dead, and the Batterskull was uncastable with this Thalia around. And my opponent concedes there, which is interesting. Maybe their hand was just stone cold dead. That seems like another early concession. We'll go ahead and attribute that win to Thalia's mana denial, as I imagined that's what did it. I guess the double Wastelands at the beginning of the game were real winners as well. It's a little hard to say what was left in their hand there. Alright, so we're playing against Check Pile, so we're going to board into a sort of a grindier deck. We'll maybe board into Rest in Peace. I don't know about the third. I'll have to look and see what the deck list is looking like this week. So generally, I board out Swords to Plowshares in this matchup. My opponent doesn't have great targets. I tend to board out Phyrexian Revoker. It's not really reliably sticking around. And after that, most of the rest of my cards are pretty good. So I'll just kind of trim one other random thing and call that fine. Normally I have a Palace Jailer that I trim, but that's Vryn Wingmare number 3 in this deck list instead of the Palace Jailer. So that's my normal cut. Maybe it's just supposed to be the the Flicker Wisp, since like my opponent has so much removal that it's hard to like get good Flicker Wisp value when it's hard enough to like keep one body on the board to Flicker Wisp in the first place. But Wisp is really, really good with like the Recruiters and with P and K and stuff. My Vials are a little under pressure in this matchup because of Culligan's Command. I kind of just want to trim a Wingmare, but they're really, really good in multiples. But I guess if I want to like cast this Cataclysm, then like maybe trimming one of those is fine. I think it's either a Flicker Wisp or a Wingmare there, and it's close. This hand is medium. I'll be keeping it. But I kind of expect all my early stuff to die. We're gonna, like, that is unfortunate. I was about to say, we're going to bank on this Cataclysm to win this game. And then my opponent thought sees me and is like, probably a pretty high percentage to go ahead and just take this Cataclysm here. No! Alright, they don't have early removal. If my opponent hymns me, I want this plateau in play, so I'm going to go ahead and play out a plateau before anything else here. So I kind of want to attack my opponent's mana with this Wasteland, because they only have basic island in play right now. So like that very reasonably might knock them off of black, at least for the time being, or constrain their fetching otherwise. Yeah, so we've knocked our opponent off of black in the short term. That's great. Life is bowling. Thanks. Sorry it's not lagging well for you, but everything does get uploaded to YouTube afterwards, so check it out there. And we'll go ahead and get the batter skull with this. Ooh, opponent doesn't have a bolt. That's great. Good evening. How am I? I'm doing pretty well. This league's going great. Very much like our position. Opponent doesn't appear to have a lightning bolt. We have an active Stoneforge, and I'm gonna get to dump in equipment. My opponent's missing land drops, so like we probably got this match locked up. They might have a removal spell for this batter skull, but it's not like we're not gonna try. Oh, neat. We're just getting there, chat. So that Wasteland was probably a far better play than I could possibly know. Oh, my opponent just discards. Wow. So we'll go ahead and diversify threats here. It seems like my opponent is F6'd. They've got nothing going on. Yeah, our opponent is stone cold dead here in every way. So, like, if they ponder into something like a fatal push, like, sure, you can fatal push this Stoneforge and just die to the germ, or like vice versa. So we should be done here. But they're fighting the good fight. And they've realized what is going on. Okay. Wow, enter the stream, and opponent has Island, Volcanic, and him in the graveyard. Must be going well. Yes, very well. We got that one pretty easily. So that was on the draw versus check pile, and we won game 2 there. really with a wasteland. Like, everything else we did that game was irrelevant other than that wasteland. That wasteland just completely crippled everything that that my opponent was doing, and we're off to a really easy 3-0 start here. I'm going to take 30 seconds here to run to the restroom before my next match. If you haven't taken this up, a moment to vote for my bonus stream on Thursday, there is a link in the stream goals panel below that you can click to vote real quick. Currently, a Singleton Toolbox D&T build is in the lead. Be right back. All right, back in the queue we go. Opponent could have metamorphosed into land deluge for the wrath to live. Did they have enough life for that? Were they at 6? Yeah, okay. I guess, you know, technically that was a line that could have done it. So for anyone who doesn't know me, my name's Phil Gallagher. I run Thraben University, a D&T exclusive site. And tonight we're streaming with Red, White, Death, and Taxes. It is going well. We are currently 3-0. Technically, the first one, our opponent just conceded to us because they were 0-4, but, you know, scoreboard. Yeah, Metamorphose is a totally playable card in a fair deck that happens to have really, really bad mana. Like, there are some of those decks that want to, like, Hymn to Turok on 2 or something like that, and they just, like, can't. What's your opinion on Red, White versus White Taxes? Both are great. I like Red, White Taxes a little bit better right now. Alright, 1, 9, 2, 8, 3, 7. No results for this player, so I am going to keep what appears to be an amazing hand. Hey Phil, been a minute since I caught you live. Want to thank you for the streams on the site. Went 3-1, 4-0, and 3-1 with my first outings with the Crusader list. Great, I'm really glad to hear that. I quite like the Crusader list. I know I haven't been playing it recently, but I've been very, very pleased with it. So my opponent's deck could be a couple of things, but I'm going to guess that my opponent is on some sort of Reanimator deck, and since my opponent has seen my hand, I'm going to go ahead and lead out that Caracas right now. Ooh, Swamp into Wasteland. I take it back, not Reanimator. We might be looking at something like Dead Guy Ale instead. Oh. Well. Chat, what's my opponent playing? Am I just getting, like, poxed right now? Is that happening? Oh god, chat saying pox. Dead Guy Ale is still a thing, question mark. No, it's not really. Like, it's technically a legacy deck that you can play, but it's not particularly tiered or anything close to it. I was kidding. I was just imagining opponent going Swamp Smallpox. Like, after the opponent Innocence Blood, like, Pox is a real guess. Like, we're... This is what being taxed feels like. Losing that Aether Vial to the Thoughtseize on turn 1 was very devastating. Does Pox play a Bog? Please draw land. Yeah! We drew land. Hardest part of the game for me at the moment is knowing what I'm playing against and how to sideboard. Yeah, that's a big part of learning D&T. It's learning how to, like, play your deck specifically against your opponent's deck. And identifying your opponent's deck and game plan can be tricky. I think I'm going to Magus my opponent here. And that might sound a little bit weird, but I want to do it while I still have red mana, and doing this is going to keep my opponent from playing any black-black cards. So if they have something like a Hymn to Turok or something of that nature, they can't actually cast it, and this potentially lets me double spell next turn if I draw, like, one of my other 2 planes in my deck. Yeah, so yes, my opponent is a mono black deck. Like, that is a claim that is correct and true. However, Pox has a decent number of non-basic lands. Like, there's Urborg, there's Bog, there's Wasteland, there's probably Mishra's Factory. So Magus is not a bad card against them, despite the fact that they are a monocolored deck. Like, that Magus potentially kept my opponent off of things like Liliana the Veil, or Liliana the Last Hope, or Hymn to Turok. When I have a moment, I'll go back and I'll read that Stoneforge Mystic comment again. I just missed that the first time around. Unless I draw a land, playing the Stoneforge Mystic doesn't actually change the clock at all. So maybe I'm supposed to save it to play around something like a Toxic Deluge or other sweeper, and just play out the Aether Vial. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Oh, so your issue is figuring out what to board in versus out, and, like, at what point do I want to take the Stoneforges out versus leaving them in. I see. I can talk about that a little bit. Yes, the Abyss is a pain. Yeah, Jitte is something that can let me beat a bridge, although my opponent has 6 cards in hand, and bridge is probably a non-factor this game anyway. Yeah, so when you're first learning to play D&T and you're not sure what to sideboard, I'd say only sideboard in the cards that you think are really good, because I think a lot of people over sideboard with D&T very frequently. Like, there are a lot of, like, situationally fine cards that people go and board in when they really don't need to, when their main deck cards are, like, just as good or better. So the reason I played out a Stoneforge right now, rather than just like holding up the vial to have the flexibility, is in case my opponent like somehow swept the board and then like had a follow-up discard spell. But I think I was essentially on a like there's no way to lose that match. Again, that Magus was awesome. Alright, so we are playing against Pox, presumably. We are on the draw, and we won game 1 against Michelle with a long string of numbers. 1, 9, 2, 8, 3, 7. Game 1 win with Magus shutting off 2x black sources. Alright. So let's sideboard. I don't actually know how to sideboard for this matchup, so we're going to be doing this on the fly. We can't port them because of our Magus of the Moon shutting it off. Okay, we did not see a lot of cards from my opponent this game. So I'm going to kind of board safely. I'm pretty sure they are Pox based on everything I saw. So we're going to board in something that's really hard to kill, something that produces extra bodies, something that can deal with planeswalkers and if they manage to stick that, and something extra to get them. I'll probably board in this Relic Warder as well, just as a generic answer to what they've got going on. And now I have to think. Rip is great versus Pox. Rip is great versus Crucible of Worlds, but otherwise, like, potentially does nothing. So why is Rip great? Sell me on Rip if you want me to bring that in. Like, is it just Crucible? Nether Spirit? I don't really... Nether Spirit or Raven's Crime? I don't think they're Raven's Crime anymore. And I'm not that scared of Nether Spirit. I'll probably board out my swords. I'm not particularly sure on what all I'm supposed to do in this matchup. I haven't played it in literal years. I will be revisiting sideboarding in between games once I get some more information about my opponent's exact 75. Like, I assume they have something like Curse Scroll to make this, to make the Revokers worth keeping in the deck. And other than that, like, I haven't seen a Pox deck in the, like, post-Liliana the Last Hope world, so I don't actually know what my opponent's deck list is going to look like. Yeah, Nico's the only reason I would consider boarding in Rest in Peace is for Wasteland Crucible combo. But, like, I don't care about anything else that they're doing with the graveyard, I don't think. So my opponent mulliganed. My hand is medium. This should probably go back because it only has 2 pieces of gas, and I want cards that interact, and I would really like to have early interaction. But if I draw like a Thalia and like the Thalia sticks and I get to curve into Wingmare, this is really good. But this is the sort of hand that if my opponent just like thought seizes or something, I probably just don't have enough left, and so I think I'm gonna ship this. This hand's great. Yeah, basics are good against that plan. I only have 3 though. So my opponent mulliganed to 5. And kept on 5. Relic Order Scry. That's tricky. That might be too situational to want right now. But I'm going to go ahead and keep it. I think. If my opponent like plays out some artifact that matters or some enchantment that matters, I will be very glad to have this around. Cavern on Cleric casts it. Yeah, that is correct. We're probably not putting Cavern on Cleric though, since we have 2 like natural white mana sources in our hand at the moment. Oh, wow. Opponent went no play turn 1 after mull to 5. Rough. What did my opponent do with their scry? Oh, and my opponent bottomed with the scry? They might just be dead. Yeah, this is indeed looking like a free win sort of match. Oh, not 100%. Opponent probably now has to choose between removing Mom and using a discard spell. Never mind. Alright, we will sacrifice a Mom. And Sinkhole! Alright, that's fair. But now my opponent has 2 cards left. In case my opponent has a Wasteland for one of those remaining cards, I'm going to go ahead and just lead on the Cavern of Souls here. So, Moxall asks, not Artificer, question mark, for Stoneforge purposes, and potentially P and K as well. I don't necessarily expect that my lands are going to get to stick around to the point where they are going to be useful to multiple things. So the next card that I want to deploy is Thalia. And so because of that, I want to, like, put Cavern on something that will let me cast Thalia in case I somehow lose this plateau in my hand to something like land Hymn to Torok or something like that. And the Cavern of Souls also will let me cast P and K with this plateau that's in my hand already. So like the choice between like Human and Artificer, the Artificer would only do P and K and Stoneforge, whereas Human gets most of the deck. So my opponent had no other play on 1 mana there. So my opponent's hand might be full of clunkers. We're currently playing the game of like who draws lands first, me or them. Me is the answer. Yeah, like my opponent managed to turn this into a game despite a mull to 5. If they brick on a land here, that's probably the end. Since my opponent can't currently cast any spells anyway, I'm going to go ahead and just deploy the Stoneforge. And I'm going to get the Batterskull to present a super quick clock and just, like, end this before my opponent draws out of it. If they draw another land and they, like, remove one of my 2 creatures, that's fine. Otherwise, I feel like this game is over, because I just, like, put in Batterskull, and then port for the rest of the game. Innocent Blood. Each player sacrifices a creature. I'll sacrifice Thalia number 1. I will deploy Thalia number 2. Again, let's just limit my opponent's ability to get back into this game. And I'll give a little love tap here. Sure, we could get massacred. You don't play around massacre. You just get massacred, and it's fine. No option for lower quality video on the stream. Bummer. I don't know about that. That might be something I can do that I can look into. What are you talking about with Virtue's Ruin over there? Don't even joke. Don't even joke. I've had some really... Oh, that'll do it. Game over. So that takes them off of black. That's sweet. Now my opponent scoops it up. Howdy, greetings from Germany. When did you start streaming? First time I tuned in, and I really like it so far. Well, welcome. Glad to have you. I think I started streaming around the first of the year, so it's been like 2 months now. I know it's been over a month because like I got my first person to resubscribe today. I have a matching YouTube channel as well, Deacon. So if you want to catch up on like some of my other matches, like they are on there. You can find them on Thraben University. All right, chat. We're going for the old 5-0 here. So game 2, opponent mulls to 5 and dies to mana disruption. So we're on the draw for that, and we win. Alright. Bummer. Opponent was brave for registering Pox. Pox is one of those decks that, like, realistically has a ton of, like, 70-30 and 30-70 matchups where, like, there are just times where, like, you're playing Pox and your opponent just can't win. And then there are a lot of other times where, like, your opponent can just ignore what you're doing and you have no chance at winning. Pox wins very, very slowly, which is a huge problem for a deck in Legacy. All right, thank you very much, Edis. No, there's an I in there too. I don't know how to pronounce that. Since I have followers from so many different languages, I never necessarily know which language my opponent, or not my opponent, my followers are in. So is it Edisti23? Thank you for subscribing. Sorry if I'm butchering your name. EDCD. Dice, whatever. Dice 23. All right, good enough. All right, so a little while ago, people were harping on D&T's position in the meta. Do you think it was underestimated? Seems like the deck is still doing fine despite Grixis and 4-color Delver anywhere. Like, in recent times, I never thought that D&T was nearly as bad as a lot of other people. Like, Bahara was really down on the deck when, like, K-Command was everywhere with 4-color control all over the place. And, like, you'll hear people like Jeff Hoagland on stream just, like, ripping on D&T. Like, why would you register that deck when you can, like, be playing Brainstorm or, like, flooping Griselbrand into play on turn 1? But, like, in the past 6 months, I've always been, like, pretty happy with my win rate and the deck's performance. So I think the deck is fine, and it's definitely on the rise right now. Like, it's a deck to beat again this month. We've got, like, we're up to 8% of the metagame now, and I think we're, like, the biggest chunk of the metagame behind Grixis Delver. So, like, we're definitely in a good spot. Oh hi! We're gonna check this one. We're gonna keep this one. So we're playing against Grixis Delver. And we're on the play. And we'll be keeping this hand. I'm gonna go ahead and bottom that. Since I know my opponent is on Delver, I'm going to go ahead and just fetch a basic Plains while I can and pass the turn. He sometimes plays Eldrazi. That day is not today. Got days for me, friend? You do have a daze for me. But that's fine, that means the Thalia resolves. That's a very poor draw. There's a very real chance that, like, we will get... Ooh, another daze. There's a very real chance that we might just get Delvered this game. But that was an amazing top deck, so it's fine. Let's see if my opponent has a force. No force. Oh man, my opponent didn't have a second land, so they just scooped it up there. Alright, we'll be on the draw for game 2. We might get Delvered this game. Draw Stoneforge. Maybe not. 100% accurate. That is more or less exactly what went through my mind. Our hand went from being kind of mediocre to insane with that draw. So again, for anyone who wasn't here last time, we played against Grixis Delver. We pulled Revokers, we pulled Recruiters, and then I trimmed one other random card. B&K. There we go. Hype, one game out from a 5-0. Yeah, but Lewis CBR is really, really good. Like, really, really good. I very, very much respect him as a player. I would be a fool not to. This hand is amazing. We will keep this one. So, last time I saw one of his lists, he had a bunch of, like, Ancient Grudges. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Not necessarily something we will be able to play around in every case, but something to be aware of. Since I have no red cards in my hand, and my hand is very, very strong, I'm going to go ahead and just fetch a basic plains, play around a stifle, and path my opponent's guy. Are you on red-white and paper too? I haven't played any paper D&T in a little while, but I suppose the answer to that question is probably yes. Like, if I showed up to a paper event, I would probably bring red-white, although, like, what's in my deck box right now is probably one of my mono-white variants. Ooh, Lavamancer. Really glad I didn't play out that Swords to Plowshares. Alright, so I get to spend 2 mana and resolve a Swords to Plowshares on the Grim Lavamancer before that can get out of control, and then I can use my equipment to go ahead and take over this game. And I am not going to get cute here and say, oh, well, they only have 1 instant or sorcery in their graveyard right now. They can't, you know, activate the Grim Lavamancer. You don't play that game with the Grim Lavamancer. It's a very, very dangerous game. I don't remember if I said this or not already, but Cyan, in Legacy, the mana bases are really, really greedy. So, like, probably less than a third of the Legacy decks actually have a basic land in them at all. Yeah, exactly, exactly. Check pile has cut waste to run basics recently. Yeah, you'll see a lot of variety in the check pile mana bases. Like... what do I want to do? My life total is starting to get a little bit low. Kind of want to, like, play the Wingmare, try to trade it with Delver, and then ride Equipment to victory, but maybe it's possible that I'm supposed to just, like, Stoneforge, make them have a removal spell, or something for it, and just, like, try to get a Batterskull. Most of the lines here are pretty good. I go ahead and play Wingmare. It's the only thing that really punishes this hard is a Daze. A Force is rough, but not as bad as a Daze. Alright. So I'm at 6 now. So I'll take 3 for sure from the Delver, and I am probably just dead. It's unfortunate. So I'll play Stoneforge. I'll get a Batterskull. I'm hoping to actually rip a land. So I would like to hit land or removal spell with my next draw. The Batterskull is actually too slow to race the Delver. Ooh, buddy. So we're going to go ahead and do this in my opponent's upkeep. Boo! Alright. That's sad. Game 2. Stabilize. Board, but lose to Bolt. That's okay. And seems great. We'll keep it. Hey Phil, quick question. Would you ever consider playing something like Sudden Demise in the sideboard, or is it too tricky to cast? It is too tricky to cast. The red-white build a lot of times is leaning on Cavern of Souls in order to make its red mana, as well as vialing things in with Aether Vial. So when both of those things are considered, you actually have very few true red sources in your deck. So Sudden Demise, while has an extremely high power level, is extremely hard to cast as well. No, they mean Sudden Demise, right? The, like, red X, deal X damage to creatures of a chosen color sort of thing. Ah, the good old Gataxian Probe Cabal Therapy combo. So strong. All right, my opponent scoops it up, and I get the 5-0 here. Wasteland is a good and fair Magic card. So game 3, win with Wasteland, and that's that. So we got a ton of really early concessions tonight. Yeah, like a 5-0 is nice. It's not anywhere close to our first one with this build, though. Like, I think I've got like 3 or 4 reported with this, which is cool. Glad I caught the tail end of that last game. Yeah, that was a really fast league. I think we're going to go ahead and roll through a second one. But I started to get a little bit of lag in that last game. I don't know if you all could notice that. I'm going to go ahead and do another league. I'm going to go ahead and pause the stream for just a minute to break this up into a new video. And I'm also going to restart my Magic client real quick. So I'm not going anywhere, chat. I'm just going to go ahead and pause for just